There is no greater endorsement for the Whitley Fund for Nature than the achievements of our winners.
The Whitley Award has helped me increase my profile and the profile of frogs in South Africa tremendously.
To reinforce the important work I do as a conservationist.
Funders want to work with me. They often go online and listen to the Whitley Award videos. They are convinced we are credible.
Keep lions such as Nanai and her 3 beautiful cubs alive.
We are able to mount conservation into the hands of local communities.
Saving these wonderful, magical, majestic places.
Receiving an award from the Whitley Fund for Nature is like joining a family. It's like establishing a long-term partnership.
It has helped us expand and strengthen our tapir conservation efforts here in Brazil.
It has opened the doors of the world for me.
To work with traditional fishers in some of the most remote places in the world in order to save some of the most critically endangered species.
And allowed us to protect 32 million acres of penguin habitat, not only in the ocean but also on land.
It was the most prestigious international award, support, endorsement, and a seal of approval.
Opportunities to protect some of the most amazing wildlife species of our planet.
The Whitley Award helped us to build and sustain the largest conservation network in Yemen.
It is a unique recognition and support for grassroots conservation work.
Helped us to engage with many other organizations around the world.
Whitley Award have enabled us
to belong to a select circle of conservationists all over the world.
It gave me more confidence to talk to people, especially to politicians and potential donors.
Increased profile of our work of identifying key leopard and other wildlife areas for protection.
To actually encompass the conservation of the Asian elephant, its land, its habitat, through corridor protection. That enable our work to provide incentive for communities.
Help me in leveraging more supports in terms of funding and even government support and community actions.
It has allowed us to do things we never thought possible.
Good evening and welcome to this celebration of the Whitley Awards for International Nature Conservation. I'm stumbling a little bit because that's the first time I've seen that film and it just blows me away. I've been an ambassador for this charity along with Tom Heap here for many years now, about 15 years, and every time I stand here to give out these awards, I am blown away by what this charity it manages to do. Because as you saw from that film, winning these awards really does change lives, and it accelerates and really punches home the impact that these extraordinary scientists and conservationists have. Tonight we're coming to you live from the Floating Harbour Studios in Bristol to celebrate this year, 2021's remarkable winners. And we're really excited that so many of you are out there, we hope, joining us, raising a glass to celebrate the work of these incredibly inspiring people who we will hear from later. As I said, I am delighted to be co-hosting with my fellow ambassador, Tom Heap. How are you?
I'm very well indeed, and it is fantastic to be here again presenting these awards. And as Kate said, that film really gives you an idea of the global reach of this organisation. And this event is the amazing culmination of that global search to identify some of the world's most effective grassroots conservation leaders and support their groundbreaking work for wildlife. In the face of obstacles, not least of course this year's COVID-19, tonight's winners have persevered and adapted. They show us that with funding and support, conservation can succeed, and they give us reason to be so hopeful about the future.
They really do. We're going to kickstart the evening with a little bit of an introduction from the founder of the Whitley Fund for Nature. He's my hero, and he's Edward Whitley.
Good evening and welcome one and all to the 2021 Whitley Awards ceremony.
We're so sorry not to be celebrating with you all in person to meet the latest winners, but one silver lining is that this virtual event is able to reach a much larger global audience. The Whitley Fund for Nature team is back in Bristol with our wonderful ambassadors, Kate and Tom. We're thrilled to have you with us tonight, together with this fantastic production team here at the Barge who are making all this possible. Over the last year, we've had rapidly to change how we do things at the charity. Conservationists have also experienced extensive challenges. Their work's been delayed and their operations are in urgent need of additional funding to make it through this pandemic. Yet, our Whitley Award winners always inspire us with what they achieve against the odds for wildlife and for people as we work towards a green recovery. We remain steadfast in our commitment to support grassroots conservation champions. The charity continues to work from home, and we've been humbled by the most generous support of our donors, which helped us to reach our income target and to award £1.3 million in grants last year. It's from our winners that we draw our inspiration for the theme of tonight's ceremony, and we hope that you'll participate in our route to recovery. On that note, excitingly, 2021 will see the launch of WFN Next Gen, working with passionate young people who represent our future as we emerge from lockdown and look ahead with optimism. All of which leads us to welcome our 6 new 2021 Whitley Award winners. Each one is a pioneering leader who spearheads community conservation work in their home countries. It's these people who are best placed to bring about solutions. Later this evening, we'll see short films about each winner. They're kindly, and may I say absolutely brilliantly made by Icon Films on our shoestring budget, and they're narrated by our trustee, Sir David Attenborough. This year's Whitley Gold Award winner is in conversation with our patron, Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal. To capture a sense of fun, we'd like to ask you to send in your photos of yourselves enjoying tonight's event. Please email them to info@whitleyaward.org and we'll try to share as many as we can. Before handing back to Kate and Tom, I'd like to thank the small but completely mighty WFN team, led by Danny, together with Georgie, Janice, Brian, Amy and Lydia. They've all worked so hard to make tonight a success and to put a spotlight on our winners' work. Thank you to the team around us, masterminding all this technology. And thank you once more to our fantastic donors, wherever you all are. You've been so generous, so understanding in this challenging year. We have no permanent endowment, so your support quite literally makes all the difference. Please join us in our admiration and applause for tonight's brand new Whitley Award winners. We may be gathered virtually, but as you'll appreciate, the challenges they face and the work they do are very real indeed.
Thank you so much, Edward. And if you would like to join the conversation tonight, then please follow us on social media. That's @Whitley Awards, @Whitley Awards, and then use the hashtag #RouteToRecovery. That's #RouteToRecovery. Kate and I are proud to be WFN's ambassadors, and for those of you joining us for the first time, it is a phenomenally effective charity that is so expert in finding and supporting local leaders who are best placed to deliver conservation in their own home countries.
The Whitley Awards champion environmental heroes. These are people who have dedicated their lives to finding rigorous scientific solutions to support their local wildlife and habitats, crucially working with and alongside their communities. And WFN is proud to fund this very effective means of conservation. And I think we're quite proud to kind of boost that message.
We certainly are, and it is that thing about it's not just the animals or plants that live in these places, it's the people. WFN has got that for decades, and if anything is kind of ramping up, putting them really at the forefront of the conservation
Absolutely,
work.
and it's that which makes the work of this charity so incredibly effective, and that's been proved year on year for over a quarter of a century now. My goodness.
Well, without further ado, it is our pleasure to introduce the 6 new Whitley Award winners who will each receive £40,000 in project funding.
Yeah, no, I'm just sorry, I'm interrupting again. again, because as Edward said, you know, this is a charity that is completely dependent on its amazing donors. And we'd both like to say, wouldn't we, just a huge thank you this year of all years to be able to dig into your pockets and find that funding is overwhelming and fantastic. You're amazing, all of you.
I think it is, just because it's a year when, rightly or wrongly, people have drawn their focus a little bit closer to home, their own health, their family's health, their community's health, and our worries have been a little bit more local. So for so many people to still have that sort of breadth of imagination and empathy with animals and people around the world is truly staggering.
And to understand that actually, you know, this, although it doesn't feel like a blip at the moment, we're in the thick of it, is a blip. You know, the state of our planet is our future.
Indeed.
Thank
so
you.
In recognition of that protection and the importance of protecting these endangered habitat, let's get to our winners. And our first one is Lucy Kemp, who is working with community custodians to conserve the beautiful southern ground hornbill in South Africa.
They're never called beautiful.
I'm sure they're very, very attractive in their own right. This Whitley Award is kindly donated by Anne Rees.
My parents started this work in 1969, and it feels like now that the species is in trouble, I have to solve this problem for them.
Lucy Kemp is project manager at Mbula Ground Hornbill Project, an NGO set up to halt the decline of the southern ground hornbill in South Africa.
Across the range, this bird is associated with good rain. That deep booming call in the early morning, something anyone who spent any time in the bushveld knows well. It's been meshed into the lives of African people, sub-Saharan Africa, for millennia. And we can't lose that from our landscape.
The biggest threat to this slow-breeding, long-lived bird is loss of habitat and large trees for nesting, as well as secondary poisoning, trade, persecution and electrocution.
We've managed to pioneer a number of conservation actions that are working. We're building nests that are climate-proof into the future. We know how to hand rear.
To safeguard the southern ground hornbill, Lucy wants those on whose land these birds nest to become their custodians.
We have a really strong partnership with the communities, and I think that's really going to turn it around for the species.
Funding from the Whitley Award will enable Lucy to scale up local custodianship to monitor and protect nests. She will also use indigenous knowledge to develop culturally bespoke conservation plans and support neighbouring countries to do the same.
I hope that we can get them to a point where they have a sustainable population and the people that they share the land with really value them, respect them and protect them. I had the most amazing childhood, much of it spent in the Kruger National Park, where my parents were doing all of the early research onto this amazing bird, the southern ground hornbill. There, as an unpaid research assistant, I certainly found my love for these wild open spaces. But at the time, when they were studying the bird, it was just academically interesting. This was just a species that was a nice thing to learn about. And in just half a generation, we are in danger of losing the species from our landscapes altogether. What the Whitley Award is going to enable us to do is to connect and empower the people who share their land with the southern ground hornbill. We're going to be able to give them tools, training, things like future-proof nests, and whatever is necessary for them to protect the birds within their own landscape. And I think it is only then that we will be able to retain these gorgeous, long-lashed, aging showgirls in our savannas, in our grasslands, in our songs, in our stories, in our drumbeats, and in our hearts. And for this, we must thank the Whitley Fund for Nature. I must thank my parents, my team, my board, particularly Malcolm Cumming, Anne Turner, and all of our colleagues, collaborators and supporters, because you've had faith in us that we will be able to get this right. And to Ash, my nephew, I really hope that we can fix so many more of these problems so that when you grow up, you won't have to. Thank you.
I love the idea of being an ageing showgirl. Lucy, you can look after
Long
me
lashed
any
as
time.
well.
Long lashed.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Our next award goes to Pedro Frue, who is encouraging coexistence between Brazilian fishers and the unique Lahille's bottlenose dolphin. Pedro's award is donated by the William Brake Foundation in memory of William Brake.
The southern Atlantic coast of Brazil, home to Lahille bottlenose dolphin, and a man fighting to save them, biologist Pedro Frue.
I'm very connected with bottlenose dolphins since I was 12 years old. When I was surfing, the bottlenose dolphins approaching me, and this was my first contact with these animals.
For 20 years, Pedro has been collecting data that has revealed that the dolphins he bonded with as a child are in fact a unique subspecies. Brazil's Patos Lagoon estuary and its surrounding coastal waters has the largest resident population, with just 90 individuals. They are under threat from unsustainable fishing, in which dolphins die after becoming accidentally entangled in fishing gear. A ban on gillnet fishing was introduced in 2014 and an exclusion zone established. But the controls to protect the rare dolphins haven't been accepted by the local fishing community.
There was no social study on how this protected area would impact on their lives, because fishermen need to fish. They need the income.
With the Whitley Award, Pedro and his NGO, Causa, will create an integrated conservation plan that bridges the gap between science and the needs of the local fishers.
The response of the community is very positive.
The project will train local inspectors to effectively manage the exclusion zone and engage people in species protection.
We cannot deny the future generations the opportunity to be connected with the wildlife.
Good evening for everyone. I have a strong connection with the sea and marine life since I was a child. I grew up in Porto Alegre in the south of Brazil, that's far from the sea. But every summer, my family traveled to the coast for spending holidays at Casino Beach. And it was here that I had my first contact with bottlenose dolphins in 1992. I was surfing when a group of dolphins got close and stayed quiet a long time around. Their beauty and genuine behavior brought me a very positive and vibrant feeling and connected me with these animals. And such feeling has increased even more when I had the chance to witness them cooperating with the fishermen to catching mullets in the north of the state, a rare phenomenon in the wild. And it was then that I decided to dedicate my life to the research and conservation of Lahille's bottlenose dolphins, which was 20 years ago now. By being honored with Whitley Awards, I will tackle with dolphins being killed by fishing nets. This funding will bring people together and build bridges across science, policy and people to secure the livelihoods of artisanal fishers and provide greater protection for dolphins. My mission here is to allow future generations to experience these awe-inspiring creatures, so they may appreciate them and remain connected with the ocean and wildlife as I did. Thank you so much.
Well, we are now going to attempt to go live to the field in Brazil, a field or beach perhaps, to speak to Pedro on site. I think, hopefully, are you there? Pedro, how are you?
Oh, how are you? It's a pleasure to be here. I'm here at Patos Lagoon Estuary. I'm not on the beach. Too many waves out there, but I'm here at the pier of the Oceanographic Museum.
where all this started in 1974, when the first effort of the research started with the La Rios bottlenose dolphins. I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you.
We're absolutely thrilled that you have won this award, Pedro. It is quite a challenge what you are taking on, a challenge that many conservationists will recognise, the conflict between the needs for wildlife and the needs of people and of a community. And as you very eloquently said, you know, both are equally important. How do you think the fishermen are going to respond to your lifelong mission?
Very positively. They are very open because they want to be part of the process. And with this award, we'll give them the chance to be part of the process. This protected area is the chance to change our behavior, our behavior to do the sustainable development of the way that they fish, and then you can live together with the dolphins in this very beautiful place that are so important in relation to the environment and for social development as well. So I'm really, really positive that you can do it.
Well, we hope that the money that you have received for this award and the recognition that you will get from the award will really help you in this incredibly important and, as I say, exciting quest. Thank you so much, Pedro.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Pedro. And I must say, on that wide shot, it looked a bit like he was actually walking on water as well as his many other skills, didn't it? And now we're going to travel to India to hear from Nuklu Pom about his work to create a biodiversity peace corridor with indigenous communities in his home of Nagaland. His Whitley Award is sponsored by the Mava Foundation.
Nagaland, a mountainous state in northeast India and a global biodiversity hotspot. Here, indigenous people rely on the community-owned forests for their livelihood. But economic instability has driven a surge in logging and hunting. Fighting back is church worker Nuklu Pom.
Biodiversity loss is so massive that we don't see nor hear the sound of many species.
He founded Lem Sa Chen Loch, an initiative to protect the biodiversity of his ancestral village Yaongjum Chen. An indicator species was chosen as a measure of success, the migratory Amur falcon, which comes here in vast numbers to feed.
This species protects humanity by taking away the insects which otherwise would destroy their vegetations.
Nuklu persuaded his village to set aside 10 square kilometers of forest for conservation. Environmentally friendly farming replaced hunting and logging to create a sustainable income while allowing forests to regenerate. With his Whitley Award, Nuklu will expand to create a network of community reserves to form a biodiversity peace corridor, uniting 16 villages over 200 square kilometers.
The communities have valued what I say, and they have resolved to set aside forest areas for conservation.
Nuklu will revive cultural traditions that teach harmonious land management, benefiting 4,000 households. He will also help hunters to monitor and protect falcons.
And most importantly, share their space with wild species in order to coexist with humans without any threat. I was born in a small village in eastern Nagaland surrounded by forests and wildlife. Our people have always coexisted with nature and depended upon the forest for survival. But as a child, my grandfather told me that the environment was mourning because humans were putting so much pressure on it, and if this continued, my generation would find it very hard to survive. He was right. As a church worker, 15 years ago, having witnessed the dramatic loss of biodiversity in our forests, I resolved to establish a small community conservation project in my village of Yeongyemchin, which has been a great success. In a decade, we have seen a noticeable increase in wild species, especially Amur falcons, whose numbers increase tenfold. The migrating falcons are a symbol of free movement connecting landscapes and communities around the world, and they devour insects which otherwise destroy crops. That is why they have become so dear to us. Whitley Fund for Nature Award will grow the success of the Biodiversity Peace Corridor and create a network of reserves managed by indigenous people. Receiving the Whitley Award is an immense honor for myself, our team, our state of Nagaland, and our country, India. Whitley Fund for Nature support will further enhance our vision towards uniting communities, policymakers, and scientists, respecting wildlife, and transforming lives. During this difficult time of COVID, the award is even more important because it will support the sustainable livelihoods for people. Thank you, and God bless you.
I mean, one person has increased the number of falcons in his village by tenfold.
Yeah, extraordinary in itself.
It's absolutely extraordinary.
But also the fact that it's called a peace corridor lets you know that that is an area where there's quite a lot of tension going on. So to do that in an area with that kind of potential conflict was just, you know, achievement squared, isn't it?
It really is. Thank you, Nuclear. It is incredible what you do, and we are all sending you and the people of India our thoughts during this very challenging and tragic time. Now, what's great about these awards is that they're not only about the money, it goes much further than that. Winning elevates the profile of winners, which gets them on the front page of newspapers, which I know sounds frivolous, but don't knock it, because that helps them attract more funding, and that gives them more political clout. And that is the key.
And WFN is particularly special because it's so efficient. It's run by a small team of 6 staff, many of whom are here in the studio with us. Let's have a look backstage.
Where are they? There they are.
Give us a wave.
Actually, there's more than them, but that's some of the TV
That's
people.
the production team crew as well, yeah.
But what that means is that funding really does go to conservation work on the ground. And WFN has proven impact, challenging money directly to where it's needed most. And we really need your support to continue to make this happen, please.
Well, it's time to reveal some of those supporters, some of the audience out there. And we've already received some photos from viewers, and it's great to see everyone's faces. I think we've got quite a few beautiful people up there.
There we
behind
are,
us.
yeah.
And they're looking fine.
It is wonderful to know, as I say, that there are people out there supporting this wonderful work. If you haven't supported so far, please do.
And please keep sharing your snaps with us via info@whitleyaward.org. That's info@whitleyaward.org.
Let's move on to our next winner now. We're going to head to Patagonia to hear from Kinney Rossler, who has literally dedicated his life to conserving the hooded grebe and training the next generation of conservationists in Argentina. His Whitley Award is generously donated by the Frank Brake Charitable Trust.
Patagonia contains some of South America's wildest landscapes. This formidable terrain is home to a little-known water bird only discovered in 1974. The hooded grebe. Kinney Rossler, a field biologist for Aves Argentina, realized this perfectly adapted bird's population was crashing.
I'm a bird watcher since I'm 11 years old. to be every day with endangered species and to try to protect it is the biggest thing I can do.
Based at a number of research sites in southern Argentina, his team discovered big problems. Predation by invasive species, land use changes to make way for extractive industries, and climate change that's altering the bird's habitat faster than it can adapt.
I was able to control most of the threats that were affecting this population.
By assigning guardians to protect nest sites from predators and installing artificial breeding platforms, Kini has been able to stabilize the population and enable this lovely bird to continue to dance in peace.
The main goals I have is that the hooded becomes the umbrella species that protect the whole habitat of Patagonia.
With his Whitley Award, Kini will train young scientists to conduct further research to unravel the mysteries about the hooded grebe. Funding will support a wide-reaching communications campaign that, combined with a long-term conservation plan, will safeguard these remarkable birds and their environment.
When I was scouting the highland lakes of Austral Patagonia looking for the hooded grebe back in 2009, I had already bought my plane ticket to the US to start a PhD on tropical Andean birds. However, after seeing how dire the situation of the grebe was, I decided to cancel all my plans and stay in Patagonia and help to save it from extinction. Receiving the Whitley Award today means that my young self made a really good call. I have been working now for over 10 years in Patagonia's most remote and breathtaking landscape, where many little study species still roam. I'm incredibly proud of the work we have done, but I'm even more proud of the people that have joined me along the way on my quest of protecting the hooded grebe. Since then, we have managed to stabilize grebe population and protect it from its most pressing threats, and we have succeeded on making the hooded grebe a symbol for this awe-inspiring landscape. Challenges ahead are plenty. But today, my team and I have the opportunity of keep working, researching and protecting the hooded grebe in a larger scale, securing a long-term impact. Right now, I can share my experience with you and make you as passionate as myself about this mesmerizing little bird and its environment. For this opportunity, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Kenny. Stunning birds in an absolutely stunning landscape as well. And just before we came on air, the founder of this charity, Edward Whitley, his phone was literally kind of lighting up with things from all around the world, WhatsApp messages from people who'd won. But one of them was from Kenny, who said he's been on the front page of La Nación, which is the big paper in Argentina. He's been on the national radio and television, and it's just been huge for him.
Really huge, and that is really good news for the hooded grebe. And we've said it before, it is that exposure to the work that these incredibly dedicated scientists and their teams are doing that then mean they attract extra funding, more funding, and more support, and as we say, you know, they then have more power, and that is the thing that really does make the difference.
It's the most coverage apparently that the charity's had for 100 years or so, which is very good, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Well, it's now time to move on and hear from our penultimate winner, whose award is donated by the Arcus Foundation. Iriro Tanchi is working with the local community to bring a recently discovered and very cute, I'm told, bat.
Love a cute bat.
Who doesn't? Back from the brink in Nigeria. Let's see the film.
Cross River National Park and Afi Mountain Wildlife Sanctuary in southeastern Nigeria. In 2016, a species last seen in the wild 45 years ago was rediscovered by field biologist Iriro Tanchi and her team.
This species has sort of hung on for dear life in small pockets.
A single population of endangered short-tailed roundleaf bats. Iroro set up the Small Mammal Conservation Organization to collect data on this big-eared bat.
Welcome to our camp.
She found that loss of foraging habitat caused by wildfires that originate on farms and cave disturbance by fruit bat hunters threatened the short-tailed roundleaf bat's survival.
You are reducing the quality as well as the size of the habitat available to this species.
To safeguard the roost, local bylaws were passed to protect the forest, and Iroro schooled locals on the importance of bats as pollinators and pest control agents.
You would consume tons and tons of insects per night.
But COVID-19 hampered bat conservation efforts.
We were educating people that bats are not the bad guys here. It's us humans who need to be careful about our actions.
With Whitley Award funding, Iroro will locate new caves for protection through field surveys. She will eliminate cave disturbance by working with local people to develop sustainable livelihoods away from fruit bat hunting. The establishment of a community task force will reduce wildfires, giving the forest back to this rare small mammal.
Myself very lucky to have the opportunity to work with such wonderful people who are willing to find a solution that then allows you to conserve an endangered species. I grew up in Warri, a small town in southern Nigeria that enjoyed an oil boom that was good for people but not wildlife. At night, my father would sit on the veranda, pointing to the stars by name and literally sparking my passion for the natural world. But what I lacked as a child to wildlife exposure, I gained on television because my parents only permitted TV when it was educational, like nature documentaries, including those by Sir David Attenborough, describing incredible creatures from far-flung places. But as an adult, when I visited a forest in southeastern Nigeria, I was immediately transported back to those nature documentaries, except this time I was in a forest and mountainous landscape in my own country, which was hardly portrayed on screen back then. I fell in love with it. Naturally, I returned to this spectacular landscape for my PhD, and within 2 years, my team and I discovered the first Nigerian individual of the rare short-tailed roundleaf bat. I was beyond excited. But within 10 short days, this euphoria quickly disappeared as wildfire drove us from the forest and given us a first-hand experience of the threats facing the species. But that spurred us into immediate action, and we campaigned against wildfires originating from farms and other threats like cave disturbance. The Whitley Awards will provide critical funds to protect this beautiful and incredible landscape for bats and people so that Nigerians can see it, experience it, and be inspired as I was as a little girl gazing at the stars. Thank you.
Well, now we're hoping to go live to actually speak with Iroro about bats in Nigeria. And there she is. Tremendous. Very nice to see you, Iroro. A very cheery way.
Hi, Kate and Tom.
Yeah, I guess that the bats might be happier in that dark habitat than we are. It's their natural time. Now tell me, people don't always love bats, but what do bats do for Nigerians or for anybody? What are the kind of services they're providing?
Well, bats are incredible creatures that provide lots and lots of ecosystem services. And in Nigeria, we know that bats pollinate trees that provide one of the most sought after spices for cooking. It's used to flavor soups and stews. It's called dawa locally, but this is a Pachyia species that is distributed across, its families are distributed across the old world. But then there are things like shea butter that's imported across the world, where bats basically plant trees of shea butter across the landscape. So these are two key things we always point out. Of course, there's 100 more that we don't even know yet. And so, of course, that's why we need to keep doing research to find out the ecosystem services that bats provide. But these are the two key ones that I always tell Nigerians when they ask me why bats.
Yeah, and what can people in Nigeria do to help you to conserve this creature, which, as you say, is already helping them?
Well, the first thing with almost every Nigeria I encounter is that change in perception. The bats are not the bad guys. Just for anything you can think about. Well, a good number of Nigerians think bats are witches, and then the COVID pandemic hasn't helped matters either. But every Nigerian can start to, first of all, change that perception. And then we go from there to behavioral change, where you don't attack roosts. You allow bats to live freely in their roosts. You don't cut down their roost trees. You don't go into the caves to disturb them. And, you know, you listen to the government agents and NGOs like us who are working to protect these bats. In fact, I'm standing right next to a roost, and we had bats flying overhead a few minutes ago. I can smell them, actually, you see. It's that sort of enjoyment. You want to be able to allow the bats be in their roosts, not disturb them, because roosts are key to the survival of bats, as well as for the species we're hoping to conserve, but also its habitat. Yeah. Do not set fires recklessly. Fires have to be contained. Thank you.
Aurora, thank you very much. And just before I let you go, I've heard that you can use ultrasound to listen for bats, but you can actually smell bats? What do they smell like?
It's an interesting, so it's a mix of sort of like sweaty body odors, maybe a little bit of peanut butter, a little bit of coriander, a little bit of cloves. Like, it's a combination.
Wow.
There's really nothing that I can relate to when I describe the smell of bats, but that it also differs by species. So the species I was just talking about, that's right here, we're right close to the roost, is the straw-colored fruit bat. It's known as a widespread species across sub-Saharan Africa, and it really has that characteristic smell. You can smell it. Others smell like something else, but it's a real combination of different things.
Brilliant. Aurora, thank you so much indeed. Absolute pleasure to speak to you. I'm not sure that Oda Bat is going to be troubling Chanel anytime in the near future, but a beautiful thing.
Congratulations, and please, please keep that wonderful enthusiasm of yours alive, because it's making such a difference, Aurora. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you very much.
Now, our final winner is grassroots hero Sammy Safari, best name of the night, I think. He really does sound like a hero, yeah. Who is using sea turtles as a flagship for more sustainable livelihoods and poverty alleviation along Kenya's coastline. This award is kindly donated by the Corcoran Foundation.
My goals in this project are to make sure I reduce and eventually stop turtle poaching in my area.
Sammy Safari leads the anti-poaching team for Local Ocean Conservation, a not-for-profit organisation caring for Kenya's marine environment. North of Mombasa, the Malindi Watamu Marine National Park and Reserves is an important habitat for sea turtles. 5 of the 7 different species of sea turtle can be found along the Kenyan coast. Under threat from bycatch and poachers who illegally sell them for meat and oil, Sammy has worked tirelessly to convince fishers to stop taking turtles, turning poachers into protectors. Now the global pandemic threatens to unravel years of progress by Sammy and his team.
It has caused the hotel industry to be closed. For those who are laid off, have now become fishermen, which have now raised the number of poaching incidences.
With his Whitley Award, Sammy will help community groups develop alternative sources of income to alleviate pressure on the marine environment. He will increase anti-poaching patrols with the help of local scouts and work with women to strengthen marine resource stewardship.
The response from the community seems positive.
By doing so, Sammy will ensure not just the turtle's survival, but the preservation of local livelihoods and this valuable ecosystem.
I'm Sami Safari, born and brought up right next to a beautiful natural coastal forest. As children, my friends and I would play around pretending to be poachers. My dad would come in, talk to us about the importance of fauna and flora. Later, learned about mangroves and marine ecosystem. For now, I'm leading an anti-poaching team, which I'm really proud of. It wasn't all that easy, for there was the resistance from the community. Later, they realized the role sea turtles play in the marine ecosystem. We are now seeing a rise of incidences, turtle being poached, and total destruction. This is due to the pandemic. For the Whitley Award, it would help me continue with anti-poaching surveys and patrols, create awareness and alternative livelihoods. The youth are giving information on incidences of poached turtles and other illegal activities. This reminds me that I'm not alone in the fight. Together, we can make a better future for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. Thank you and congratulations to all our 2021 winners. I think I say this every year. I can't believe that every year another extraordinary group of people are honoured with these awards, but honoured, it doesn't seem enough for the work that they're doing. They are helping change our planet for the better.
They are, and I know this sounds a little bit selfish, but I'm really missing not seeing them, meeting them in person.
I know,
because
I know.
In previous years, when you're in the Royal Geographical Society, you're in the same space. That kind of force of character that so many of them have, and the charisma and the humour as well, and just the sort of can-do attitude that they have is just stunning face to face. I mean, you get a great flavour of it from the films and the chats, but it is tremendous seeing them face to face as well.
It really is, and I think, you know, Sammy put it so beautifully there that this year has been so challenging. The pandemic has had a ripple effect that, you know, many of us could never have predicted, and for our winners tonight to have overcome that and to achieve what they've achieved, thanks to our amazing donors, is just tremendous. And tonight really marks just the start of the journey, in fact, because beyond the Whitley Award, winners can apply for WFN continuation funding to support expansion of their vital work. Recognising that change doesn't happen overnight, it's a core role the charity plays in supporting long-term and extremely effective conservation efforts. In 2020, WFN awarded £1 million in these follow-on grants, and many of the winners are working together, forming an international network of WFN alumni, sharing experiences, sharing data, making it ever more effective. We are now delighted to hear a few words from the Shears Foundation, who are proud supporters of WFN's continuation funding programme.
Hello, my name is Lynn Shears. I am the chair of a grant-making charity called the Shears Foundation that my late husband Trevor and I set up in 1996. Trevor and I were always very passionate about the environment. We were already supporting the World Wildlife Fund when they invited us to go to the Whitley Awards as guests. This is where we first learnt so much about Whitley Fun for Nature. From that very first awards evening, we were absolutely blown over with WFN's work. And at each awards ceremony, we have met with many Whitley Award winners and the people that have supported them. Each time we are blown away with their passion and commitment. Over the years, we have met so many like-minded people, and we always go home with the awards talking about the experience for weeks to come. A few weeks after our first awards ceremony, we made our first grant to WFN and have been supporting them ever since.
In 2018, we came to fully appreciate that receiving an award is just the start of each conservation champion's journey. The trustees agreed to move our funding from supporting an individual award to supporting the continuation funding programme. This decision recognised the vital need for conservation work to be ongoing and sustainable.
I can honestly say that when we first attended the Whitley Awards, everything clicked for me straight away. The dedication of the award winners, the importance of their work and support from WFN was so clear to see. I can really see why the WFN is one of the trustees' favourite charities. As time has gone on, I have increasingly appreciated that we are more than a straightforward funder. It goes way beyond that. We are very much part of the WFN family.
Lynn, I wish you were here and we could give you a great big hug, but thank you to you and to all your family for your just incredible support.
Now, apparently, we've had a few more pictures in of our supporters that we can
Let's have a look at them.
Bring up.
Oh, they're gorgeous. Hello.
They are.
Oh, look at them all.
Look at them out in the wild as well.
All over the world. I think that really just sums up the incredible global reach of WFN.
Right. Is there a bit of animal action going on here? There's a bit of face painting.
I think, definitely a party going on there. There's two very ugly people in the back of that shot. I don't know why that one's been shown.
Shocking.
Now, with a growing number of winners around the globe, the need for funding does increase every year. So if you would like to become a supporter of this extraordinarily effective charity, please consider donating tonight or just get in touch with us. I think you have seen that every pound you give really does make a difference and really will be very well spent.
Well, conservation of the planet is now more important than ever, and our winners prove that with support we can give the natural world a fighting chance. Well, now let's hear from WFN Director Danny Parks about their vision for a route to recovery.
Thank you for joining us for the Whitley Awards Live, and congratulations to all our award winners. It's fantastic to be here and that you can all take part. WFN's social media has exploded, and there are so many uplifting messages of support to the new recipients. Please keep them coming. We know the planet is at a critical point, but our winners are doing something about it, and that's why we're so immensely proud of them. As you'll have heard from David Attenborough in tonight's event trailer, we are facing unprecedented biodiversity, climate and health emergencies. These emergencies threaten the future of all life on Earth. Biodiversity is collapsing. Wildlife populations have declined by an average of 2/3 over the past 50 years, with 1 million species now at risk of extinction. Our home is heating up. Not only are we experiencing record temperatures and extreme weather events after doubling our emissions in just a generation, but we're less able to protect ourselves, having destroyed natural defences. The global south is bearing the brunt. And society is sick. Exploiting wild animals and wild places creates new diseases. For many, COVID-19 has been our first experience of the connection between human and wildlife health. However, we now have an opportunity to change course, and Whitley Award winners are leading the charge. At WFN, we believe change can and must happen. We need urgent action. And the good news is that wildlife conservation really works. Whitley Award winners give me optimism every day. Research shows extinction risk would be at least 20% worse without the help of conservationists like the winners you have seen tonight. As Kate and Tom have said, WFN exists to support the scale-up of effective solutions. Our growing alumni community represents a global voice for conservation. And with over 200 winners in 80 countries, we're increasingly encouraging their collaboration to replicate successful initiatives under our Winner Network Development Programme. Our winners' films show they have the know-how, but it will take political leaders, businesses, and us all as individuals to set the course. Global leaders will reform environmental commitments at the forthcoming Biodiversity and Climate Conventions. On the ground, Whitley Award winners are the grassroots leaders turning political ambitions into a green reality. It's why this year WFN have channeled £500,000 into supporting nature-based solutions that tackle wildlife loss and global warming hand in hand and in partnership with local communities. Just 4% of UK giving goes to the environment. Now imagine how much more we could achieve with additional support. It's now or never to embark on our route to recovery. We hope you'll join us, and thank you for tuning in. And now, back to the studio with Kate and Tom to announce tonight's Whitley Gold Award winner.
Thanks, Danny, our very own force of nature.
She's amazing.
We have one more winner to hear from for our top prize, the Whitley Gold Award. The Gold Award, worth £100,000, is donated by the Friends of the Whitley Fund for Nature. It represents the pinnacle of the WFN journey, with the recipient being a past Whitley Award winner who has also received continuation funding and achieved considerable things for conservation internationally. The gold winner joins the Whitley Awards judging panel too, as well as acting as a mentor to the new winners. Well, let's see who's taken the prize.
When I was growing up, there was so much wildlife, it was everywhere, and I took it for granted, just like so many other Kenyans. We think that these animals will always be here. But in fact, many of the species that I grew up with are now on the endangered species list.
2021 Whitley Gold Award winner Dr. Paula Kahumbu has dedicated her life to tackling the poaching of elephants for their ivory in Kenya.
I realized that knowing the science wasn't enough. I had to move into policy and later advocacy to help save elephants.
CEO of Wildlife Direct, one of the most trusted conservation organisations working across Kenya, Paula won a Whitley Award in 2014. It allowed her to galvanise a national response to the elephant poaching crisis through her Hands Off Our Elephants campaign.
We saw a massive explosion of poaching. Many people felt helpless, despondent. They felt they couldn't do anything because the players in this business are big international cartels, and it's very dangerous.
Undeterred, Hands Off Our Elephants took the message to the heart of government and gained important public support from the First Lady of Kenya, Margaret Kenyatta, patron of the campaign.
That showed us what was possible.
The campaign culminated in the burning of Kenya's ivory stockpile, sending an unmissable smoke signal to poachers. Two years later, with a WFN continuation funding grant, Paula masterminded Eyes in the Courtroom, a programme monitoring and analysing wildlife trials. It sought to strengthen Kenya's legal system and deter poaching cartels by getting justice for people and wildlife.
We trained people, we created resources, we published reports, and we made such a big difference on the ground.
Now she's spreading the wildlife conservation message via her own TV series, Wildlife Warriors.
Less than a kilometre away is one of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. This is the first television series about wildlife in Africa, made by Africans and for African audiences. The impact of this has been phenomenal.
More than half of Kenyans watch her show.
It's so important that our people see their own role models, making a huge difference.
She's also inspiring a new generation of conservationists through education. Her unswerving commitment has made Paula the most recognizable woman for conservation in Africa. Now, bolstered by her Whitley Gold Award, Paula will embark on an even bigger challenge that will go beyond wildlife.
What we'll do with the funds from the Whitley Gold Award is to create the first environmental justice desk in Africa.
Manned by lawyers, the desk will deal with the growing number of requests for help from concerned citizens about threats to wildlife and habitat.
The Justice Desk will be this amazing place where you can learn about how to launch a petition, how to have projects stopped in their tracks.
Through Wildlife Direct, Paula is mobilizing organizations and Kenyans to defend wilderness and stop unsustainable developments that threaten Kenya's wildlife parks and corridors. And she'll continue to actively participate in wildlife and environmental law reviews that put local people at the heart of decision making.
The Whitley Gold Award is the highest accolade that I've ever received. It's such a great endorsement of what we're doing. It will allow me to carry on fighting wildlife crime, on supporting a network of people doing similar work across the whole continent, and especially here in Kenya. Asante sana. I've always loved wildlife, and I thought that my major contribution to conservation would be through research and science. And I chose to study elephants because I found people so confusing and difficult to deal with. But despite all the work, elephants continue to be persecuted for their tusks, their hides, their flesh, and now for their land. I realized that research wasn't enough, especially if decision makers were not taking any notice. And that's why I moved into advocacy and campaigning. And I started with the Hands Off Our Elephants campaign, which was hugely successful, partly due to the funding from the Whitley Award that I won in 2014 and the Whitley Continuation funding in 2016. But despite this hard-won success, elephant numbers across Africa continue to decline. In fact, the African savanna elephant is now considered endangered, and the African forest elephant is critically endangered. I've just come back from the Amboseli ecosystem, which is home to some of the most amazing wildlife. It's an iconic landscape with migrating elephants, wildebeest, zebra, lions, cheetahs, and so many other animals, as well as people, the Maasai people, who move their livestock through this landscape. And while I was there, our vehicle broke down. As we were tinkering in the engine, we could hear this rustling in the bushes, and out stepped this magnificent elephant. One of the biggest elephants I've ever seen. His name is Wonton. Wonton has the largest tusks of any elephant in Africa. And it was a cause of celebration to see him because just a few weeks earlier he had been injured and treated for a deep wound in his neck, and he was believed to have died because he hadn't been seen again. Seeing him thriving was wonderful, but I couldn't help feeling that it was futile to save one elephant if we can't save this critical landscape. You see, Wonton, like all the other elephants and wildlife, needs to move from the Amboseli National Park through a landscape of people, communities and private lands to the Chulu Hills National Park and the Sava West National Park. But in the last few years, this land in between the parks, which is critical for the migration of wildlife, has become clogged with farms, fences and even mining. Now, the industrial scale of avocado farming threatens to strangle the national parks, and that will kill elephants. In the past, we were fighting poachers. Now we're fighting industrial farming and international trade. It's a much more difficult challenge. I mean, who doesn't love avocados? So now I'm turning my campaign to saving the Amboseli ecosystem. And if we succeed, This will set an enormous precedent, not just for Kenya, but for the entire African continent and all the wildlife that migrates. I want to thank the Whitley Fund for Nature and the friends of the Whitley Fund for Nature for the support and recognition through the Whitley Gold Award that I'm receiving today. This award will allow me to raise the profile of the challenges facing Africa's wildlife to a global level and to work with the entire Whitley alumni and fraternity to help solve this problem. I believe that together we can secure justice for wildlife and people. Thank you.
I want Paula to run for President of the world, and if she does, I'll be your wing woman, Paula. Congratulations. You are indeed an incredibly worthy winner of the 2021 Whitley Gold Award.
And one thing that just strikes me watching Paula's film is that being a conservationist like her doesn't just rely on getting your hands dirty in the field. She's in the corridors of power. She's in the law courts. She's even in the TV studios, and that's another way, a big way that you get things done, particularly with ambitious projects like hers.
Well, and also what it does so brilliantly is spread the word. It takes it away just from the, purely from the scientific community and from the people who know about conservation and care about conservation to the people who don't know. But when they do know, they really care. And she has proven how effective getting that message out there to everybody is. A really inspiring woman. I'd now like to welcome the WFN patron, Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, who last week spoke to Paula about her incredible work over a very special Zoom call.
Good morning, Your Royal Highness.
Morning, Paula. Very nice to see you again.
Likewise, likewise.
And I think probably life has it got rather more exciting and busier since we last met.
Absolutely. The threats are no longer just about elephants being shot for the production of ivory for markets all around the world, especially in Asia. Now the real threats to elephants are loss of land. They're losing their homes because, especially now with COVID, what we're seeing are tourism has collapsed and people are moving into rangelands around our national parks, and so vital for elephants to move, between these protected areas as part of their migration. And now we have huge industrial scale farming coming up, mining, fences in some places as well. And as a result, elephants are getting caught in between. And I think that's going to be the major threat to elephants moving forward, is loss of land and destruction of habitat.
Do you think the Whitley Fund and your awards has had much impact on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. The Whitley Award, one, elevates the level of awareness and the seriousness with which we're taken. It's helped us to also leverage more funding for our work in the courtrooms and on justice issues. It's helped us to be seen globally. Sometimes we're just seen locally and we've become so focused on our navel that we forget that actually this work is relevant way beyond Kenya's borders. So I would say that the Whitley Fund has been, extraordinary.
I mean, it works both ways. I mean, there is no doubt that the work that you do it highlights to our funders and the people who are interested in and who've been supporting Whitley just what they can achieve through the winners. And I think it works both ways, because that gives them added confidence that there is somewhere here they can put money where they can really see a result, partly because they've had the chance to meet the individuals who are critical to that, and partly because those individuals have made such an impact where they are and continue to do so.
What's amazing about the Whitley Fund for Nature is the way it's a family. And they're constantly contacting us, creating new suggestions, creating a network for winners to interact with each other, and also holding us to a very high standard. And that's, I think, where a big difference happens, right? So if you're constantly being held to a higher standard, you have to step up. You just have to keep stepping up. And that's why you see many of the winners are some of the most well-known conservation leaders in the world. So what we can see is that the Whitley Awards has basically raised a generation of global leaders in conservation. And that's so important. I can't tell you how critical it is that the voices of people from the global south are heard authentically, people who are living the challenges on the ground and are playing a role at the grassroots.
And really, as you've pointed out, this is something that they keep in touch, that they're always there, that this is a part of that growing network. And we want to maintain those contacts because we believe that that's inherently important.
And this is what has been so phenomenal working with the Whitley Foundation, is being able to help all my colleagues out there who are doing phenomenal work. And many of them have been able to win grants, and some of them even Whitley Awards.
Paul, it's really nice to catch up with you, but I do hope we'll see you in the flesh before too long. And it'd be really nice if I get a chance to come back to Kenya to see what you're up to. But many congratulations. And as I say, the party may be even bigger the next time because there'll be lots more winners. But thank you so much for all you've been doing.
Thank you, Mum. I hope to see you very soon.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness, and well done again to Paula. And thanks to everyone who has donated to support conservation efforts like those led by tonight's winners. And if you've been inspired, then please do consider adding to that fundraising pot. Dig in.
Congratulations again to all the 2021 winners for their amazing work. And thank you, really, really thank you to all those donors who make these awards possible. I think we should have a quick look at our lovely audience and supporters.
Oh, yeah.
And there we are, we've got some more. Somebody very sensibly drinking outside. Lots of people drinking outside.
He's not going to get far on that bike because he's heading against the wall. Perhaps that's the challenge. Can he break through?
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And well, I really hope that tonight has filled you with conservation optimism. I'm certainly, I always feel optimistic at the end of these evenings. From Tom and me and the amazing team at Whitley Fund for Nature, thank you for being with us and have a very good rest of your evening.
Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
you.